And good Wednesday evening, listeners. And thank you for tuning in to another edition of Conversations of a Sister here on my YouTube channel. So, today is the first Wednesday in Women's History Month, for March is Women's History Month. That is a month set aside wherein we honor women from our past and women of our present who are constantly making strides and paving the way in today's society. So, for those of you who may be just tuning in or tuning in, I thank you for joining me live tonight for my conversation as we delve into the SAVE Act. It is entitled the SAVE Act, Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act. The SAVE Act. That is what the legislation is passing or is going to pass. I know it was brought before the House in 2024, and now it is slated to pass this year. So, what better time to talk about the SAVE Act than right now in Women's History Month? Because, after all, women fought so hard to be afforded so many freedoms in this country that it would be a shame to take women back. I think it would be a shame to go back, period. So tonight, I'm going to break down and school you to the SAVE Act. As I stated, March is Women's History Month. And for those of you who are just tuning in, welcome to the first Wednesday in Women's History Month. There are so many courageous women who have influenced women for generations to come. And we know that women are second to none. And yes, there are some great ones. There are so many women who paved the way in history, whether it be Harriet Tubman, Susan B. Anthony, or Ida B. Wells. These are all great women who paved the way for other women and for women to have certain rights in this country. So, when I think about the climate in today's political economy, I'm sure there are women out there standing up for our freedoms and our liberties as we speak. Because we have the current administration trying to roll back these freedoms that so many women have fought for. So many women fought for us to have the right to vote, the right to own a home, the right to get a mortgage, the right to have a job. Because I'm told that, in former days, women didn't have those freedoms. Women could not own a home without a man. Women were not considered equal in the workplace. So we have so many women who fought for those freedoms. Women's rights are the rights and entitlements claimed for women worldwide. And these are rights that we never ever want to relinquish or give up. Why would we? When so many women fought for them, women who will go down in history as fighting for women's rights. My favorite pioneer in history is Harriet Tubman because Harriet Tubman was tough. When she got freed, she wanted to free so many more of her people that she went back and she freed so many more people. And I know that her saying was, I would have freed so many more if only they had known that they were slaves or that they were not free or that they could be free. So, I mean, come on. Who wants to give up freedoms in today's political climate? Tonight's conversation is about the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, the SAVE Act. Now, the reason why this legislation that has a possibility to be passed into law, the reason why it's so sneaky, this bill, is because it is being passed as a bill so that only citizens of this country can vote. Well, only citizens of this country can vote anyway. I know that there's been rumors uh, that people believe that immigrants voted and immigrants can vote, and the reason why Biden flooded the the border was so that immigrants can vote, and immigrants cannot vote because they are not citizens of the United States. In order to be a citizen of the United States, you have to actually become a citizen before you are eligible to vote. That's a fact. Because if they find out, if authorities find out, or if it is known that you voted and you're illegal, that can not only cause deportation, but you can serve jail time. It's like against the law. So how is such a thing happening when you have to think about it? So let's talk about let me delve into the trickery of it all. So this is the trickery of it all. If you say that you have illegal immigrants voting or non-citizens voting, then that means that you can come up with ways to suppress the vote because you're already putting it out there that non-citizens of this country can be eligible to vote when we know that none of it has been found to be true. But that's what's been said throughout the last 4 years by the current administration. So when you talk about something long enough with people, I don't know, who could be in a cult because they believe everything the person says, you start to actually believe it. And if you want to believe it, you want to put some form of action in place to justify this belief. So let's talk about the SAVE Act. So the SAVE Act is going to require women, I'm saying women, because it is going to require women who register to vote for the first time to provide a documented piece of paper that is going to prove their birth name, the name that they were born with. They have to come up with, they have to present this documentation. That's none other than a birth certificate. So if you are registering to vote for the first time, you will have to provide a birth certificate along with the driver's license and I think one third form of ID. But if I'm not mistaken, I think the birth certificate is the main requirement because that document has your maiden name on it. So, of course, if you're married and you have a birth certificate, that birth certificate is going to state your birth name. That name, which is your maiden name, may not be in your passport. That name, of course, is not going to be on your driver's license. If you are registering for the first time to vote, the only document that they want to see and that you would have to prove is your birth certificate. So why are they doing it? Why are they making the birth certificate the requirement? Because you cannot put a birth certificate next to a driver's license of an individual who's married, because the married name is going to be on the driver's license and the maiden name is going to be on the birth certificate. Ah, therein lies the catch. That's why they're calling it the SAVE Act. Because in order for you to prove that you are a citizen born in the United States, you will have to produce a birth certificate. Come on. How many of us know where our birth certificates are? How many of us can put our hands on that documentation of their birth certificate? How many people that is a possibility that this document was lost? How many people can actually put their hands on a birth certificate? So, because they're trying to make this a requirement in the SAVE Act for women who will be registering for the first time to vote, that is voter suppression. Why? Because they are asking you to prove your birth name versus the name that you've taken on from your husband if you were married. Does that make it difficult? Yeah, that's the whole point. The whole point is to make it difficult. The whole point is to make it hard. The whole point is so that women can be discouraged. That's the point of it. So there was a young woman in, I think it was Massachusetts, who was at a legislative meeting and she saw this SAVE Act bill, uh, where women were told that it was being sponsored by Rich McCormick, a Republican of Georgia, stating that to ensure that all U.S. citizens are voting in elections, he's come up with this bill, this SAVE Act bill, where women will have to provide hard documentation that they were born in this country. And when the woman in this meeting read that, she said, "Oh, that's a slick way to push voter suppression, because you are trying to suppress the vote of women." Why? Why would they want to suppress the vote of women? Because they know that if change is going to happen in this country, it is coming through women. We speak up, we don't bite our tongues, we say what's on our mind, and we'll go to the front line. We will get right up in your face and tell you what is wrong. What is wrong in every aspect of the game where we are outnumbered to play. We will tell you what is wrong. In this bill that may pass the Senate this year, it may have some uphill hurdles, because I doubt very seriously that Democrats are going to be for this, because the bill secretly suppresses the vote, and it suppresses the vote of women, young women, older women who may register. It doesn't matter. It suppresses the votes of women. And we know with this current administration, in just 90 days in office, his administration has fired millions of federal employees. Gas prices are high, inflation is high, the stock market is tanked, and he is trying to reverse every law since Jim Crow. So why not suppress the vote? Why not put women in their place? Why not make it harder for them to vote? Because after all, they see us as women, subservient to their beliefs. But I think that if enough women know that this is what is happening, and now I'm letting the cat out of the bag because I'm ringing the bells and I'm sounding the alarms. If this bill is passed for those women who are not registered to vote and they are married, they will have to present a birth certificate. So I would start filing for those birth certificates now or looking for them if you can't find them because this is the law that they are hoping to pass. Because if they can pass this law, over 77.1 million women are in jeopardy of voting. And that is what they want. And I'm sure that after these first 2 years, I don't even know what it'll be like in four, but after these first 2 years, you're going to have women registering to vote like never before. And this is a bill that needs to be known so that your legislators can be contacted, your senators, your congress people in your state can be contacted, and you can speak out against this bill. It's very simple. You don't want the SAVE Act. There's nothing that we have to be saved from. There was never, ever any fraud found in previous elections. There was never any cheating going on in previous elections. Dead people were not voting as Rudy Giuliani tried to state. Immigrants were not voting as Donald Trump tried to claim. These things did not happen. But if you speak it, you can come up with ways to suppress a people, to control the outcome of an election. Because you start speaking it, and then you have people who believe it, unfortunately, because they speak it. And it's just so outlandish. But this is the game. These are the tactics that are being played to set us back, not only as women, but as individuals, as communities, as a society. Because their hope and what they believe is that women should just be barefoot and pregnant and hanging out in the kitchen. That's what their belief is. And I mean, don't get me wrong. Some women were raised in that era. But then some women who are out of that era know that they don't want to go back to that era because we have so many independencies of our own. So for those women who may have been married or have gotten married, who are married, and you you are no longer using your maiden name and you have your husband's name, just know that it is a possibility that this law will pass. And if it does, the goal is to make it harder for women to vote. That's the goal. So when you think about this, when you think about the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act. If enacted, the proposed law would require proof of citizenship because a birth certificate is proof of citizenship. A passport, I guess, would be proof of citizenship, but the birth certificate is the ultimate trump card because it states when and where you were got, you were born. You know, and the young lady who spoke about it at a town hall meeting, she filmed a video of herself asking the question to her lawmaker, doesn't this present voter suppression? And he didn't want to answer her. But ever since that meeting and that video, her video has gone viral. And because her video has gone viral, everybody is talking about it because the law is just so sneaky. But isn't that how laws are? Aren't they passed to just be sneaky because you just want to sneak something in there? Hoping that people won't read it or that people don't read it or that people don't know. Can you imagine had she just been sitting in this meeting and not read it? Can you imagine? Can you imagine the uphill battle it will be if this law is passed and women have to come up with their birth certificates? Can you imagine? And who's going to pay for those checks and balances at the polling place? Who's gonna pay for that? Because when you register to vote, there's like a whole process. You register to vote. I know that in my state, it's a process. When you register to vote, you receive a little pamphlet by mail. And this pamphlet by mail has your name, your address, and your barcode. So now it's like when you go to the polling place, they just, you know, scan that barcode, and that barcode tells them everything that they need to know. So it takes the place of an ID. Now, if you go to the polling place and you don't have the little leaflet that came by mail, it's a possibility that they will ask you for ID. But I always have the leaflet. I always take it with me. I always take it with me to the polling place because you never know. And now with the SAVE Act, the bill that is slick, because the bill is slick, because